I got the question how to actually start Psytrance production and what you should focus on. And I want to go in this video a bit about how I would start, if I would start with Psytrance again with the knowledge I have now, so that you get faster to kind of like the result you want to have with your music and to sound like you want. And let's look a little bit into it now. The first thing I would recommend you is make it as simple as possible, because when I started producing, I wanted to do everything. So it's a very big field. You must imagine actually music is so complex. You could kind of like study it for like 10 years and for sure you wouldn't be done with that. So there are many guys out there who do Psytrance production for like 20 years or something, and they're still improving. If you listen to their sound, like how it sounded like a few years ago and how it sounds now, then you will realize that there's always kind of like a transformation in it. Especially if you are a beginner, this can be very overwhelming and it can be frustrating actually, because there's so many things you need to learn and you will suck at every single one of them, to be honest, or at least I did. And maybe you have a special talent or whatever. But that's why my suggestion is start as simple as possible, and how you can start as simple as possible. The first thing is you need to realize that you don't have to do everything by yourself. There are many things you can use out there, and those will help you to reduce the points of error. For example, when I started, I was trying to produce my own kicks. I wanted to make my own sounds and everything, my own basses. Luckily, I didn't try to make my own drums, but you could actually. You could make your own drums as well with FM synthesis, for example. And where do you stop? I mean, where do you kind of like draw the border from this is my music and I took something which I used? Because you can go as far that you could program your own synthesizers or your own DAW or whatever. So at any point, you will need to take a line, and you will need to accept that you need stuff other people did in order to create your music. It's completely normal. I mean, a lot of pros out there also use samples, they use presets from other artists, and there's nothing wrong about it. So make it as simple as possible and start with only with the important thing which defines your music most. And I will come to this later in this video again. And also regarding the equipment, start as simple as you can. Use the stock plugins from the DAW first. Also, it will save you a lot of money. And if you get like a synthesizer, then get one with a really good graphical user interface, which is easy to learn, which has a lot of tutorials out there in the web, and where you can find a lot of stuff you can buy for, like presets. And I can recommend you basically two synthesizers to start with. One is Vital, it's free, so it's obviously a very good choice if you want to start and don't want to invest too much money into it right now. And the second one is Serum. Both synthesizers are good. I like the Serum a little bit more, but the Vital is also a very, very good synth. For my feeling, the Serum has a little bit better FX section and better filters, and Vital has, let's say, a little bit more advanced things into it, like the mod remap and things like that, but I don't want to go too much detail in this video. So if you want to start, get the Vital first, and if you get used to it, then get the Serum. If you want to know more about the gear I'm using, I put links in the description to all the synthesizers and plugins I have. But I would recommend you to not get too many of those in the beginning. And if you want to invest some money, then invest in good samples and invest in good kick drums and good drums for Psytrance, and maybe even like basses for Psytrance. Either you can use bass samples. I never really worked with bass sample packs, so I cannot recommend some here. But I work a lot with bass presets for synthesizers. So in all the bigger preset packs out there, you will usually find bass presets, and then you already have a good starting point for your bass as well. So for example, Camp for Audio has really good Psytrance kicks. I heard the basses are good, but as said, I never used them here. The Then you have from Relative, Psytrance Essentials, and also a lot of the Futurephonic stuff is good, like the foundations. Here you have here a lot of closed hi-hats, crashes, open hi-hats, like all the drums you need. And this is especially important in Psytrance, like kick and bass and the drum groove. I would say is kind of like the foundation of your track. So let's imagine you want to build a house, and this is basically where your house is standing on. You can build a beautiful house, but if you build it on like a swamp, then it won't last very long. So that's the same for Psytrance. So this is the latest track I'm doing, and this is like my kick and bass and drum groove. And as you can hear, or hopefully you feel the same, is if I deactivate all the other channels and I just have kick and bass and drums playing, then this already grooves and gives you kind of like the feeling that you want to shake your body, that you want to move. And so this is like the really important part in Psytrance to get started with. So you see, it's kind of like grooving only kick and bass and drums. And now if I place the other stuff, it will add something on top, but it's not as important as the kick and bass. Look. So to nail this is really important, and you can make it yourself a lot easier if you don't try to create your kicks in the beginning. Maybe if you don't even try to create your bass in the beginning if you use a sample, or at least if you use a preset from a preset bank. And preset banks I can really recommend. You find really cool stuff in Sound Directive from Lunatica, for example. He has like a cool Serum bank, or Burn Noise has really good presets you find, which you also then can use for leads and other stuff later. But the first thing you really need to get nailed is kick and bass and drums. And remember what I said in the beginning of this video, make it as simple as possible. Reduce the amount of failure points you can do, because there will be so much stuff you still can screw up on this, and I still screw up on this. And by reducing those failure points and using stuff from other professional producers, you will make your life easier. You will get sooner to a good sound. And yes, maybe it's a bit cheating in the beginning, but you can then start bit by bit replacing stuff with your own stuff. So let's assume you made like a track with kick from a pack, the bass from a pack, even the drums, maybe even the groove from a pack, and then you create your leads. Then at one day you are satisfied with your leads, then maybe you start making your own bass, and then you are satisfied with your bass and your leads, then you might start making your own kicks. But give yourself the time. Don't try to do everything in the beginning at once. So try to make it to focus on one topic, and to focus on things which in the end will really define your music. And let's talk a little bit about what defines your music. As we have talked, this foundation is really important, so we need to nail that first. But what really defines basically your music, at least in my opinion, is the idea, the story you are telling. So it's basically the idea creation. So that's one really important step, and then the arrangement. So how you tell your idea, what's the storytelling behind it. After that comes then the sound design. Once you are able to tell your idea and to have it like on a solid foundation, obviously, then you have like a cool energy flow and a great arrangement, then you can start to go more into sound design. And here I would also start simple. Take presets you like and then try to adjust them first, try to change a few things, try to replicate them, and then start creating your own cool lead sounds and cool FX sounds. But as I said, there are so many points of failure still. So for example, in creating leads, you still have to choose the right notes, you still have to choose the right rhythm, you still have to do all the arrangements, so decide which lead comes first, you need to introduce them, and so many things basically which can go wrong, that you want to avoid adding more stuff which can go wrong in the beginning. And once you have the sound design, then you can focus more on the mixing. And I would say as kind of like a really last step is the mastering. Also for mixing mastering, you can hire like a mixing guy, a mixing engineer, and mastering, if you release the labels, usually the labels do. So it's not the thing which really defines your track. Of course, everything is kind of like connected. I mean, if you have the greatest arrangement in the world, but your mix is totally broken, then it won't sound good. I mean, of course, everything is kind of like connected, but you will decide where to put your focus on and what will define you as an artist. And I'm sure that if you listen to music, that you will remember artists because of their style, because of how they tell their story, maybe because of their sound design if it's very unique, but not because you say, oh, this is the artist which has that special mastering to it. That's not the case. So that's also why I would put my focus kind of like last on that. Obviously, okay, you wouldn't recognize an artist by his drum patterns probably, but as I said in the beginning, this is kind of like a really part of the foundation, and you cannot kind of like build up on something which doesn't have a foundation. It's also a thing which you can get a lot of help from those samples and presets. While I think you would agree with me that it wouldn't be so interesting as an artist if you would get a lot of external help on your melodies and you buy a lot of like MIDI packs which have some standard default melodies on it, and also but that's something which you can better kind of like outsource and take from other artists than maybe your melodies. So that's why I would go from this: build a solid foundation, because without a solid foundation you cannot work, and then start like focusing on the points which really define you as an artist. So idea creation, arrangement, and then sound design, and then you come more to the last steps like mixing, mastering. Before you start with your first project, what I would really recommend you is also to borrow from other artists those steps about like idea creation and arrangement, but just for the learning purpose. It's not about like copying them. I made a whole video about referencing, by the way, which I will link up here. But it's more about like learning the structure of a track. If you see my track, I'm pretty sure you can see that there's quite like a structure here. So you see like the drums are building up, and we have here, I have all those markers where I set things which I want to have happening in the track. I also use like a lot of reference tracks for mixing and other stuff, and what I would really recommend you to get really deep into referencing in the beginning. It's a bit dry and boring, but study other tracks, study the arrangement, study the type of elements, when does which element come, study like how is their mixing, kick and bass and all that stuff you find in my referencing video, and try to copy that in the beginning a bit, and then, as I said, you change bit by bit and bring your own flavors into it. And one day you won't need even all of those, because it all became kind of like memorized, becomes internal to you, and then your gut feeling will tell you what to do, and also you have learned some rules and you're able to break some rules, and this will really help you to propel and get forward as an artist. Then there's a really interesting article here, jamesclear.com repetitions, which I will link in the description too. And what the article basically tells you, and I think it's really interesting, there was an experiment with like a photography class. The professor divided his students into two teams. One team should make like the perfect photos, so they were rated on quality, and the other team should make as many photos as they can, and they were rated on the quantity of the photos. And in the end of the course, the result was very interesting, because the students which had the highest quantity also had the highest quality. And that's something as kind of like as as humans, we learn by failure, and so it's really important that when you start your first projects, that you finish them and that you come into a cycle of repetition. So don't hang around for like 6 months or a year to create your perfect track. I mean, you can do that later if you really want to study something and get really good at some topics or something. But for the most of your production, I would recommend you that you try to finish your tracks in whatever, like 2 weeks to 2 months, depending on the time you have and how far you are in your production. But move quick, make failures, accept that you make failures. Try to learn and build up on those failures, improve in the areas where are not good. Also build out the areas which you are really good, so that you can maybe make this your thing which defines you as an artist. So maybe you're really good at melodies, then maybe your production comes focused on that. So reflect on all those things and then create, and you will get inevitable better the more time you spend in this. I would rather focus more on those pyramid steps and cheat along the way, and don't go too much into those more advanced topics like the sound design, for example. I'm also always curious to know how far you are with your production, so let me know in the comments for how long you produce, what's your experiences with, what you struggle with, because then I can make videos on that. And if you want to sound more pro, and I would always recommend you to get something where you get feedback on your production, because this will also help you really in your development. If you not only get the content, which you find a lot out there in the internet, many good masterclasses, YouTube videos, whatever, but it's also really important, as I said, to do this repetitions and to learn about your failures. And you learn faster if somebody who has a trained ear and really knows what he's doing can give you feedback on that. So see you on the next video.